Being an England fan has never been easy. Every 2 years, excitement grows going into either the Euros or the World Cup, with a lot of fans thinking that this will finally be our year. The team is star-packed with some of the best names in world football: Premier League winners, Champions League winners, and top goal scorers. But when the team finally comes together, all this fizzles out, and suddenly the players look lost in a system that doesn't match their playstyle, surrounded by players all competing to do the same thing on the pitch. Now, although topping their group, England made hard work of the group stages and faced an extremely tough opponent in the last 16. And, put simply, if they can't get past Scotland, what chance do they have against Germany, France or Portugal? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at what needs to change if England want to go further in the Euros. England started their Euro 2020 campaign with a squad filled with talent and the highest of expectations towards them. In their opening game against Croatia, the result was a well-deserved 1-0 win, against a Croatian side that seemed like a shell of the team that beat England and made it to the World Cup final in 2018. Grabbing 3 points in their opening match was crucially important for England's ambitions to top Group D. But the performance left a lot to be desired, and for a team that was tipped as one of the favourites for the Euros, it left a lot of fans questioning Gareth Southgate's cautious approach to the match. Let's briefly touch on how England faced Croatia to understand their main tactics. Southgate opted for a 4-2-3-1. As we've seen on this channel, it's an excellent offensive formation, as it allows the team to commit a lot of players to the attack, while still having plenty of central cover in case they lose possession. But even before kickoff, Southgate was being questioned on his decisions, specifically that of playing Kieran Trippier as a left back, when Ben Chilwell seemed to be a more suited fit. I mean, he is a left back. On the other hand, one of the more positive choices Southgate made was Kalvin Phillips in the midfield. The 25-year-old picked up some fantastic positions throughout the match, often moving between the midfield and defensive lines. The assist for Sterling was an excellent example of this. Phillips was crucial for England when regaining possession, with excellent pressure on Croatia's midfield, and was just as important when starting England's attacks, with a 96.8 passing accuracy and only 3 out of his 31 passes going backwards. In fact, the midfield three of Rice, Mount and Phillips was arguably the highlight of England's performance. Rice would drop deep and be key for England during build-up, helping the back line outnumber the high press of Modric and Rebic on the centre-backs, while Mount and Phillips would both be used as box-to-box midfielders, but also switching positions between themselves and creating overloads out wide. For example, with the ball shifting out wide on the left to Trippier, Sterling would either come short and Mount would attack the space behind the right back, or Mount would move out wide and look to feed Sterling in over the top. This move did create a lot of issues for Croatia. However, a couple bad touches from Sterling meant England weren't able to capitalise on these spaces. So, when in possession, England's 4-2-3-1 would often resemble either a 4-3-3 or 4-1-4-1. With Rice as the holding mid, Sterling and Foden out wide, with Phillips and Mount in more central areas. The majority of England's attacks came down the left flank, where they were able to exploit weaknesses in the Croatian defence. But by doing this, England directly hindered Foden's impact on the right flank, and the insufficient use of Kane and Foden affected the team's performance in front of goal. Harry Kane's performances so far have come under a lot of scrutiny, with the Premier League's top goalscorer and creator yet to stun a half-empty stadium. In all 3 matches so far, Kane is yet to find his rhythm, and has struggled to create any substantial plays, other than his involvement in Sterling's goal against the Czech Republic. The way Kane has been playing hasn't really been too dissimilar to his positioning at Spurs. He will often come short to collect the ball acting in a false 9 role, before looking to distribute the ball out wide and move into the box. However, the main issue with this is that with Kane coming deep to collect the ball, England have struggled to find space behind the back line to play the wingers or one of the overlapping midfielders in behind. We've seen 2 completely different results when Harry Kane comes short to collect the ball. Firstly, against Scotland, this movement proved to be completely useless. Scotland played with a very low defensive block, allowing England to retain possession before applying pressure in their defensive third. But with Kane coming deep into the midfield, the Scottish backline stayed compact and didn't leave any gaps in behind, meaning the wingers in Sterling and Foden had little space to receive the ball and attack the back line. And so the result was that England would often end up with a gap in the middle of the pitch, and few options to break the Scottish line. We can see this with England moving through the middle only 20% of the time, compared to 45 and 35% down the flanks. It becomes even more evident when we look at England's heat map against Scotland, and how there is little to no presence in the centre outside the box. However, at times it has been successful, and if there are enough options ahead of him, Harry Kane's deeper positioning can be tricky to defend against. In their final group game against the Czech Republic, Kane adopted the same positioning as he did against Scotland, but the difference this time was that the Czech Republic were more aggressive when attempting to regain possession, and played with a higher defensive line compared to Scotland, meaning there was more space in behind for Sterling, Saka and on occasion Grealish to move into. And at times England were able to pick out the forwards behind the defensive line, but once again struggled to find the back of the net. We've seen glimpses during the group stages where England have looked dangerous going forward, and I think with some slight modifications they could at least put up a good fight in the last 16. And in the final part of this video, I want to focus on a few things that I think England should include in their game plan that could potentially make them a lot more dangerous going forward. First things first, the biggest positive from England's start to the Euros is their defence. 3 clean sheets is no easy achievement, and they've proven to be well organised and able to stop the opposition in their tracks. The centre-back partnership of Stones and Maguire is well suited to hold the line for England and help the team maintain their balance. Secondly, one of the biggest critiques of England's performance so far is the perceived lack of energy up top. And I think England have the resources on the bench to counter this issue. While Sterling has scored England's only 2 goals in the competition so far, I think there are players on the bench that deserve more recognition from Gareth Southgate. And I think Bukayo Saka's excellent performance against the Czech Republic is a perfect example of this, proving that just because a player is young does not mean they lack the mentality to play in a tournament of this size. Finally, the biggest tactical change that I would make is how Southgate chooses to use his fullbacks. Southgate's defensive mentality is evident in the fullbacks' positioning, who seem to be too cautious to commit numbers on the attack. They've rarely overlapped on the wings and are used mostly as support in line with the midfield. With both fullbacks rarely playing in line with the forwards, it means the midfielders in either Mount, Phillips or Grealish will be the ones providing crosses, or either Saka and Sterling looking for Kane in the middle. But if the fullbacks were more aggressive, then it would allow England to commit more numbers in the box and potentially create more chances, given that you're not relying on your central block to stretch the back line and leave gaps down the middle. The 4-2-3-1 is an excellent formation for attacking fullbacks, as the amount of players in central areas means the opposition is forced to play relatively narrow, meaning the team has space to exploit on the flanks. But if the fullbacks sit back, then the defence has a straightforward job, as there is little width in the team. With Southgate moving the fullbacks further up the pitch, I think it would mean England could get the most out of their offensive players, who would have more support and more space to move into. With the amount of excellent fullbacks in the team, it seems counterintuitive to only use them in a defensive role, with Walker, Trippier, James, Chilwell and Shaw all being excellent creators for their clubs. But that's all from me, and I'm curious to know what you think. What do you make of England's performances so far, and where do you think they're going to finish in the Euros? Leave your thoughts in the comments down below, along with any suggestions for future videos. And if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.